So this is the last topic that we're going to discuss for third quarter in practical research one. So this is ethics in research. Lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to discuss the importance of ethics in research, explain the ethical codes in the conduct of research, and the rights of research participants. So in conducting a research, it's very important that you need to consider the security of your research respondents or participants. You also need to consider the confidentiality of the data that you will gather from them. It's because it will divulge their identity. So it's very important that you need to keep their identities secret. You need to secure them. Kasi there's a possibility that it could harm them. So the importance of ethics in research. Resnick, in his article, What is Ethics in Research and Why is it Important, explains the importance of ethics in research. These are as follows. Ethics promotes the pursuit of knowledge, truth, and credibility. It also fosters values that are essential to collaborative work. Research often involves a great deal of cooperation and coordination among people in different fields or disciplines. So, ethics, it contains the virtues that the researchers should uphold when it comes to conducting a research. So, when you seek for knowledge, when you seek for truth, you need to be credible. You need to have the virtues in order to come up with credible study. It's very important also that you need to possess these kind of things since you need to work with other people. So in order for you to have a good collaboration, you have a good teamwork so that you can achieve what's your objective, you can work out your plan and everything. You need to have ethics when it comes to dealing with your members or teammates. Many of the ethical norms ensure the researchers are held accountable to the public. So when you conduct a study, you have the accountability to keep the data that you are holding. As what I've mentioned earlier, it's your responsibility to hide the identity of your research participants, research respondents for their security. So it's also important that you need to held accountable of the procedure when it comes to conducting the research. Okay, for example, yung sa research studies involving human trials. So you are accountable to the lives of your test subjects. So dapat secure sila, not just their identity but their life as well, especially kapag laboratory experiments. Kagaya ng sa when the scientists are trying to discover vaccines for the COVID-19 virus. So, of course, they need human trials. They need to test the effectivity, efficiency of the vaccine. So, they need human subjects para i-test sa ilaha kung effective. So, the scientists are accountable to the lives of those people being subjected to their research studies. Ganun siya. And adherence to ethical principles helps build public support for research. So when you conduct a research, of course, you need to have financial support from other people. So one of the most important things that upholding ethical standard or principles that can help you is to ensure that your study something of importance, may significance siya. But the thing is, if you want to get the heart of your prospective, ang tawag na prospective sponsors or group of people or sino yung pwede mag-support sa study ninyo, you need to uphold ethical principles. The ethical codes and policies for research. First is honesty. This must be maintained in all communications when reporting your data, results, and procedures. So you need to be honest when it comes to writing your research, conducting your study, gathering the data. So kailangan honest ka doon sa data literature ninyo, dapat inibuhat-buhat, the theory that you're going to use, establish siya, standardized, accepted, the field, and you need to be honest with your respondents or participants, the procedure when it comes to gathering your data from them. So you need to uphold this virtue, this ethics. Next is objectivity. Biases should be avoided in experimental design, data analysis, interpretation, expert testimony, and other aspects of research. So in conducting a study, you need to be objective, which means that you have a specific goal to achieve. You need to eradicate the biases that you uphold, meaning kung ano man yung personal belief mo should not affect or influence doon sa data gathering, sa procedures, sa pag-analyze ng data, and everything. So it's very important that what you have gathered, what's the result of the analysis of your data, yun talaga siya. So do not falsify the result. Yun siya. Next is integrity. Consistency of thought and action is the foundation of the credibility of any research work. So it's very important that yung expertise mo, yung character mo as a researcher should be maintained during the process of conducting the study. Next is care. Careless errors and negligence should be avoided. Your work and the works of your peers should be critically examined. So you should be careful, especially with the methods that you're going to use or employ for your study. Kasi as what I've always mentioned, if there's a mistake in the procedure, then there's possibility that your study is not genuine at all because it can affect the data gathering, thus it can also affect the the analysis and the result of the study. So dapat you need to carefully analyze the procedure that you need to take. Next is openness. The researcher should be open to criticisms and new ideas. Research data, results, ideas, and resources should also be shared with the public. So when you say openness, you should accept criticisms from other people, especially sa mga experts dun sa field ninyo. So it's very important that you need to be open with their suggestions, with their comments, because after all, the purpose of criticizing your work is for improvement, para mas mapa-improve, para mas mapanindot ang iyong study. Ano siya? And you also open to share your study to other people. You can share your study through presenting it in conferences, sa ipapublish nimo sa mga tawagan na sa research articles. Ano siya. So be open to accept criticisms and be also open to share the knowledge that you have gained through your study. Then, respect for intellectual property. Proper acknowledgement should be given to all authors cited and sources used in your research case. This is what we discussed in ethical standards in writing the review for the literature. You should cite the authors. It's a way of acknowledging their work dun sa uh, references ninyo. Next is confidentiality. Confidential communications or documents should be protected. Okay. Confidentiality, especially with the identity of your research respondents or participants. So, do not divulge their identities. It's very important na dili ma-broadcast ilahang or ma-share ilahang personal identification because it could harm them. Next is responsible publication. The study should be done with the purpose of advancing research and scholarship. Wasteful and duplicate publication should be avoided. Okay. When you want to publish your work, you should be mindful of the publications that you're considering with. Kasi there are a lot of publications na, I forgot the term, uh, mga, tawagan na mga fake na publications. They just want to generate money from the researchers, from the studies. Kasi meron, in the professional side, when you publish something, that's uh, that will become part of your credentials. So it can boost your curriculum vitae, ganun siya, or your personal information regarding with your work-related information. So as a researcher, when you want to publish your work, you need to choose a publication na legitimate because daghan mga illegitimate na publications nagkalat. Next is responsible mentoring. The research should seek to educate, mentor, and advise students. So this is one of the purposes of uh, producing a research study in order to pass, in order to share your knowledge to future researchers. So it's very important na you know how to share your ideas, you know how to share your knowledge to other people, especially um, sa mga students. Kasi whether you like it or not, you will encounter research. Senior high school may research. Pagdating ng college, meron pa ring research. Kasi siya. Even sa mga minor subjects, that's what I have known sa kasi mga former colleagues ko sa USEP na nagtuturo, former teachers and colleagues ko na nasa USEP, minor subject lang siya pero may research study pa rin sila. So you cannot escape research. So you need to uh, gain knowledge about this academic endeavor. Then respect for colleagues. All peers should be treated fairly. So you need to pay respect to other people, especially to your teammates if you're working in a team. Next, social responsibility. Social good should be promoted and social harm should be avoided. So um, when we say social responsibility, um, you need to be accountable that you as a researcher, you have the responsibility to innovate ideas, especially if there are pressing issues or problems or crises that you're facing with. Okay. Halimbawa ngayon, we're facing the pandemic, public health crisis. So if you are an expert sa field na pwede makagawa ng remedy in order to uh, address such problem, then avail yourself to produce solution to the problem. The non-discrimination. All those eligible to participate in research should be allowed to do so. Okay. Itong non-discrimination, although meron tayong kinoconsider sa sampling procedure, but the thing is, if all the members in one population are qualified to be a respondent or participant, then you should consider them. On, sa next quarter, sa lesson natin ng sampling method, you will learn how to we call that what you're going to do when it comes to choosing your research participants or research respondents. How you're going to choose them, are going to select them, and what's the right method, what's the right procedure according to your study. So, itong you will still select specific people if yung study ninyo may criteria, specific criteria or characteristics that you're looking for research participants. Kaya halimbawa sa study nila Reniel na online games, responses, emotional response of online gamers when they play online games. So, it's very important na yung research participants are those who play online games para genuine naman data. Hindi naman siya lahat na lang pwede i-consider as research participants. Merong criteria. So, when it comes to non-discrimination, if lahat ng prospective or target population ninyo is pwede siya, then you can do it. The next is competence. Professional competence and expertise should be maintained and improved with the research. So it's very important that you have the skills, you have the knowledge when you conduct a study. So, kasi it's not an easy job, although it's not impossible to do it, but hindi naman siya madali. So you need the skills, the necessary skills when you conduct a study. You need to have the reading skills, writing skills. Kasi when you find read literature, you need to scrutinize the references or the resources that you have gathered if you can use them for your study. Writing skills, it's very important that you'll be able to express what you want to convey in your research. So dapat may skills, knowledge ka when it comes to conducting a study. Then legality. The researcher should know and obey relevant laws and institutional and government policies. So if you need the permission of the personnel sa isang agency or isang institution, then you need to ask permission from them. Before you can gather your data, if you need to ask permission from a specific person so that you'll be allowed to do so, then you need to ask permission from him or her. Kailangan i-follow niyo legality or bureaucracy comes to conducting a study. Then human subject protection. Harms and risks to human lives should be minimized. Human dignity, privacy, and autonomy should be among the primary considerations of research. As what I've mentioned earlier, if your study requires human subjects, then you are accountable to their lives, meaning you need to protect them. You need to secure them. Dati, hindi pa siya, hindi pa ganun ka-restricted ang conducting a research na may involved na human subjects. Scientists can do whatever they want. I'm not sure if familiar mo kang Ivan Pavlov, John Watson, they use animals and humans when they conducted their study. Although, meron namang ambag yung studies nila, um, groundbreaking naman yung result ng studies nila. Kaya lang, it involves, ano kasi, lives, human lives and animal lives. So, ngayon meron ng mga batas. We have existing laws that protect the lives of people kapag sinasubject sa research trials. Gaya ng sa uh, pag-develop ng vaccine ngayon, very critical yung public when it comes to human trials. Kasi we're talking about life. Then rights of research participants. So if you have the, uh, if you, as a researcher, if you have the ethical standards or principles that you need to follow, your research participants naman, they have their rights. Okay, the main purpose of a research is to produce results that would benefit the stakeholders in the study. Likewise, the participants are crucial elements of the research and they have the same rights as the research beneficiaries. Some of the rights of research participants are as follows. Okay, first is voluntary participation. Any person should not be coerced to participate in any research undertaking, which means that you are not in a position to force your prospective research respondents or participants to respond or participate in your study. So it's up to them if they will give you the permission or if they will allow you na mag-conduct ng study sa kanila. Next, informed consent. Prospective research participants must be fully informed about the procedures and risks involved in the research. Their consent to participate must be secured, which means that when you ask them to be the to be your research participants or respondents, you need to communicate with them what are the things that they need to do, what are things that they can get from you, especially with their security sa information nila. So you need to ask them if they uh, if they fully or they are willing to participate in your study. Then risk harm. Participants should be protected from physical, financial, or psychological harm. The principle of non-maleficence states that it is the researcher's duty to avoid, prevent, or minimize harm to the participants of the study. So it's very important that you have empathy to your research participants or respondents. So, di ka mamugos sa ila if during the or if in the middle of interview, in the middle of survey, kung gusto sila stop, you have to respect them. Ano siya. Especially pag what's the right term? Pag sensitive ang topic. Halimbawa, if you are conducting a study, tapos participants mo yung uh, mga sexually abused, kapag ganun yung topic mo, so sensitive ang topic, di ba? It's very important that mindful ka. You're mindful to the words that you're going to use when you try talking to them. Kasi possible tayo ma-trigger sa ilaha. So, dapat careful ka. Then confidentiality. Participants must be assured that their identity and other personal information will not be made available to anyone who is not directly involved in the study. This is what I'm talking about earlier. You need to secure the confidentiality of the data or the personal information of your research participants or respondents. It's your responsibility na i-secure ang ilang information. Kasi it could harm them kapag ma-divulge sa public. Next is anonymity. The participants must remain anonymous throughout the study, even to the researchers themselves. While anonymity meaning it's connected with confidentiality. Dapat dili ma-communicate ang personal information or identity or something that could implicate sa personal information sa yung research participants. Okay, when you write your research study, specifically sa results and discussion, you need to use pseudonym or something na code that would represent your research participants. For example, participant 1, yada yada, participant 2, yada yada, ganun siya dapat. Hindi siya dapat, for example, yung real name ng participants ninyo is si Mark. Mark answered that hindi siya ganun dapat. You need to use pseudonym like or code sa research participants ninyo. Like, participant 1 answered, ganun siya dapat. Anonymous dapat yung participants ninyo. And that's the end of our discussion. Okay, do you have questions? Clarifications?
None, sir.
So this is the last meeting na nato ni for lesson discussion. Tomorrow, if kung available mo, mag-meet I will not hold you for too long. Kadali lang tamo i-hold. Dili lang tamo i-hold tomorrow just to communicate to you kung ano yung kailangan na improve sa paper ninyo. Anyway na, manuman na naman ako check. Halos tanan. And some of the papers are good, well written, pero meron pa rin part na kailangan na i-improve. So, tomorrow na lang to siya. Okay, wala namang concern. If none, that's it. That's the end of our discussion. I'm going to end na. Bye guys.